114 stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is just go through your syllabus. So you do have quite a team that's teaching in 114. So the way this is going to work is we are going to team teach. So the teacher, like for days that teaches OB, will also be the one that does OB at night. So we're going to team teach, okay? I think y'all know everybody, but I'm Miss Capeless if you don't. Y'all all know Miss Blackstock, Miss Stokes, Miss Darton, and then Mr. McCartney is also going to be teaching in 114. So that is your team of instructors. Going through your syllabus, I'm just going to hit the high points. Your class days. Days will meet normally 8 to 1. There may be a couple days on the calendar where you are 8 to 2, or that may be altered slightly, so make sure you follow your calendar very closely. For nights, it's going to be 3 to 8. There may be some at the times that you are here till 9. Okay, so just make sure you look at your calendar very closely. You will meet in this classroom. Contact information is here for all of your instructors. Ms. Stokes is going to be the course coordinator for nights, and I'm the course coordinator for days. So if you need anything urgently, we'll be your contact. Let's talk about classes you should have already taken versus maybe in. If you are in 114 and 115, you should have already taken in your 113, you wouldn't be here, but also English 101, Bio 202, and Psychology 210. If there's anybody in here that has not taken those courses, please send me on break. Okay? You should also either have already taken or be currently enrolled in speech, and of course concurrently enrolled in your 115 course. So if you are not currently enrolled in speech or have not had it previously, you will also need to send me on break. Do that correctly. Okay? Yes.
We're signing if we don't have one or do we have it?
Just sign it if you do need a badge. Just if you need a badge. Okay.
Yeah, people will sign, I got confused because they always sign.
Okay. Start. Okay. You do not need a badge? Just want to do it. So sign if you need a Wellstar badge. Only if you need a Wellstar badge. Alright, looking at your books, there's not anything new for your books. These are the same ones that you should have already had, right? What I will say is there is a podcast that I found on YouTube, so if you don't like to read your book, there's a podcast. It's called Nurse Prep Podcast on YouTube, and it has both the Ignatius book and the Period Potter book. So you can go in, it's usually like a 20 or 30-minute podcast. It's like two people discussing the chapter. You're going to be in your car anyway. It might be a good resource for you to add. Okay? You do still have to have your Nursing Central software, and then we do recommend that you get the HESI Comprehensive Review book. Now, if you have the Saunders book, those are comparable books, so if you have to pick, you can just do one of those two, but the HESI book is a good resource every day. All this stuff you can kind of read through. You do have an outline of what topics will be covered. I'm going to put up in a different format in a minute. What you really want to know is how you're going to get your grades. So you will have 4 unit exams. Each unit exam will count for 16.25% of your grade, and then you will also have your final, which is 35% of your grade. So that is how you will get your grade for the summer. One thing I do want to note is that for this semester, once you have had content, that content is going to hang around. So like for the first test, you have the content you covered. For the second test, it'll be predominantly what's on the second test, but there will be some old content from test 1. It just kind of helps folks to make sure that you're going back and you're kind of reviewing that, and it usually helps you score in the final. Right? So up to 25% of each test could have old content. And by old content, I mean from this semester. HESI exams, your final at the end is a HESI exam, just like you had for last semester. You are required to do remediation. So when I go through the Canvas page, I'll show you where you can get those remediation tools from. And then you do also have your HESI scoring that is unchanged, so nothing new there. Right? Make sure that you are in class, because as you can imagine, if you miss one class day, you're going to miss a lot of content. Okay? So be in class if you can. Now, obviously, if you're sick, we don't want you in class. Same thing for clinicals. There's not any wiggle room this summer, but I also don't want you to come to clinical if you are sick. So please just be mindful if you are well, you need to be in class and clinical, so that you don't miss that content area. The rest of this, I'm I'm just gonna let you guys read through. There's not anything new on the syllabus. I just wanted to make sure that you had it pulled up. Let's go to Canvas course. So when you log into Canvas, the first module that you're gonna go to is this Getting Started page. This is where you're gonna start. We just went over your syllabus. You have your link to your calendar here as well. You also have this lovely topical outline, which is what I would recommend you guys using for studying, because it's gonna break it down by test content and who's teaching that content. So like, for instance, for test 1, this is the information that you will be tested on. You're gonna start with EKG basics tonight, and we'll cover reproductive in the next couple of weeks, right? So make sure you use that as your study tool, so that's there for you. You also have your student handbook. I'm not gonna go through the handbook, but it is your responsibility to make sure you read through that and make sure that you are comfortable with what's said in there. There was an addendum that was posted in the spring, so make sure that you read that addendum as well. Okay? Please, please, please make sure that if you are going to be late or absent from a clinical, that you let us know. Okay, our policy says if you do not let us know by the start of that clinical time, that it's gonna be a behavior violation. So help each other out. If you know that your friend is usually there by now and they're not, you might wanna call and wake them up so they can call and tell us they're gonna be late, right? So they don't get to a behavior violation. So they need to let us know before, and that doesn't mean that you tell your friend to tell me they're gonna be late. It needs to be a direct conversation or email to your clinical instructor. Remember that? Just help each other out with that. Those policies are here in case you wanna review them, but nothing has changed since last semester. Everybody always asks me about math review. There's not any new math, thank goodness, for this semester, but there is a math review posted there if you want just a refresher on your math. That's there, it has the answers with it. There is also a lab value range page that I post just because these are the lab values that we expect you to know by heart. Okay, if it's a different one, then we'll give you the reference ranges, but these you could have without a reference range given to you. Okay? Let's talk a little bit about remediation. So you are required to do 1,000 remediation questions or NCLEX style questions prior to taking your HESI. That is not anything that's different from last semester. Where you're gonna get those, I just wanna kinda go over that, okay? So you will have, with each module, there will be adaptive quizzes that we have defined, we have made for that content area. So once you finish that content area, you can go ahead and take that adaptive quiz if you would like. So your remediation can come from the ones that we set up for you. There's one for each module. There's also a long one for the HESI at the end. You can also go in and do self-study questions. If you wanted to go in and do more questions on reproductive or perfusion, I can see those as well. That's gonna be your 2 primary sources for how you're gonna meet those 1,000 questions. That make sense? Now, in the modules, when I pull one of those up, you'll also see that there's CJ Sim cases that are listed. Those are not required. They would count towards your remediation only if you haven't met your totals at the end. That grade book is a little bit more tedious to get through, so we only usually go back and look at those if need be, okay? Here's what I will say about CJ Sim. How many of y'all love CJ Sim? Yeah, that's usually the response, okay? What I will say about CJ Sim is some are better than others, just like anything else. But what it does allow you to do is to see some next-gen questions, how they're formatted and that kind of thing. So even if you don't love the CJ Sims, I would encourage y'all before the HESI at the end to at least go in and do a few so that you can see how things are formatted. Because sometimes on the HESI, that's what gives you the most trouble, is just it looks different or it looks weird. And so that would give you some exposure to some next-gen questions, okay? I know everybody doesn't love those, but there are some that are very good, so you probably have access to them, okay? So 1,000 remediation questions by the time that you take your finals. There is a due date on your calendar for that as well, okay? Any questions about just the kind of getting started page or anything like that before I move on?
For the CJ Sims, are we gonna be placed in a class, or do we need to
No.
go again?
You'll just go in, like when you go into your class, it's just gonna tell you what unit you need to go to find those. It's not like a specific class, it wouldn't say what you want to get to. Okay? So if you, let's say that I looked in yours, I would look in that same, it's the same class. Okay? Can I do that? The 115s that are assigned do not count towards your remediation total. So if it's assigned for a 115 course, it will not count as part of your 1,000 questions. If it is not assigned, then I will count it. Okay? And you do have to score an 80% on those as well. Remember that? least one day that they have a test in the afternoon. If that is the case, all adjuncts have been informed, or all the clinical instructors know that you have a test on those days, and they will let you out accordingly so that you can get here in a timely fashion. If it is an observation day like Exceptional Foundation or Be Exceptional, just let them know that morning that you will be leaving a little bit early because of the test, okay? We're doing our best to try to work around that. We've tried this before, where we've done the test in the morning and lectured for hours after, and that didn't work well, so we're gonna try it this way where you take your test and at least you can kind of, go home, take a break, and then come back in the next morning, or the next afternoon fresh for the content. Yes?
No, you just sign, so we don't put our phone number or anything.
No, it's fine. So just be mindful that when you're looking at that clinical schedule, that you have all of these requirements that we have discussed, okay? If you are only taking 114, I will talk to you on break, and we'll, maybe I shouldn't do it, okay? So make sure that you have that. I haven't heard from anybody, so I'm assuming that it looks pretty good. I haven't heard any major conflicts. Everybody had a chance to look at the clinical schedule and digest it at least a little bit. What I would recommend is to get some type of schedule where you combine the 114 and the 115, so that you know where you're supposed to be. Now, this link for the clinical schedule will update, so if something changes, I will update it on there. If there's any major change, let's say we have an adjunct that's sick and she's not gonna be able to be clinical, we will post an announcement for that, okay? But any, like, subtle changes, like if we discuss something, then that will be on there once we make those changes. Any questions? Alright, ACE-MAP. So in order for you to go to clinical tomorrow, you have to be ACE-MAP compliant. Yes.
I didn't know if you wanna mention that the clinical schedule was tighter than a tick, and any makeups are gonna be on, was it August first?
After your final.
Just FYI.
When I tell you that I have never done a clinical schedule where I've had to, take a break and walk away, until this one, it was tight. Alright. Do what? Well, that's the 7th version of it. So, yeah. Yeah, so please be in clinical if you can. Obviously, if you're sick, I don't want you in clinical and sharing that love with your fellow classmates, because we don't have any room for them to do makeup either. But just know, unless there's something extenuating, you need to be in clinical, okay? Alright, ACE-MAP, make sure that you are ACE-MAP compliant. If you do not know if you're ACE-MAP compliant, you're gonna see Dr. Shiver before you leave if you have clinicals tomorrow. Cause I don't have anywhere to put you if I have to send you home for clinical tomorrow. Yes.
Can we get a COVID, exemption form?
Yes.
For East Alabama,
Baptist East.
it should be next to that requirements. Forms are usually,
When you click on it, from what I can see, when you click on it, and it has all the different ones, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, all of them, and then there's the exemption, and it brings you to the page to upload a PDF.
is there a little square next to the, where it says exemption that has files or file in there?
I don't recall that.
I will put one in an announcement if needed. And while I'm talking, to check your account, y'all log into ACE-MAP and then click on dashboard at the top left. It's a little house up there, the student dashboard icon. And it's gonna automatically pull you up to the same page I can see in your account. That top list that says complete or incomplete requirements, that'll tell you if you're missing anything. And I just peeked at the groups going to clinical tomorrow. 15 people still have something to do before they go to clinical tomorrow. Just saying.
Just saying, unless you wanna do a makeup on August the 1st, after you take a final.
Everything has to be complete. Everything has to be complete. Yeah.
Now, I do apologize, because typically speaking, we do have at least a little window. We typically start the following week. It's just not the way it fell this time, so unfortunately, it's just. So if in doubt, you're gonna see Dr. Shiver before on break and make sure that you have your ACE-MAP compliant, especially if you're in clinical tomorrow. If it's an instructor and we can find a day to make that up, we will, but if it's just like you were sick, then yeah, it'll default to that. Alright, does everybody have a good grasp on being tardy, being late? That could be a behavior violation. You're gonna notify your instructor when you're gonna be late or absent. Before the start time of that clinical. Alright, so on here, uniform guidelines are there. They're also in the student nursing handbook, so that's just linked again, it's the same handbook. There is a little bit of a mental health clinical orientation overview, just because that site tends to be a little bit different than what you're used to. So when where you go to your mental health clinical, make sure you've read over that mental health orientation. Just kind of gives you some differences that you might see in that clinical unit. As far as your clinical paperwork, that's gonna be determined by your clinical faculty, but you will clock in and out for every clinical site that you go to this semester. You will also do a DCR for every clinical day and a clinical log that logs your skills for those days. Any additional paperwork will be instructed by your actual clinical provider, okay? So you will clock in and out, you will do your DCR, and then you will log your skills for those clinicals. I think everybody probably is familiar with Trajexis, but if you need to set that up, that is there as well. Right now, currently, the only information that's on this clinical page is your group clinicals. There are gonna be some that are doing like kids college or some other things. I will start to add that information in, we just don't have that completely done yet. So you may see some stuff add to this, if you're one of those weird clinicals, like if you're doing, kids college or Camp Aska, Dr. Shaw will meet with y'all about that, okay? But if you do have a group clinical, I went ahead and put the email addresses here, so there's no excuse for you not to notify your clinical provider by email. I do prefer that you also try to call them, especially early in the morning, they may not be checking it, but please, at the very minimum, send an email, then know that you're gonna be late, so we have documentation that you have contact with them, okay? Same thing for Wellstar, if you're at Wellstar, you'll either go with me, Emery Law, or Jennifer Westbrook, that is on Eastern time zone, and yes, my clinicals are 12-hour shifts, and that is not a misprint. And then Baptist East, you'll have Ms. Burton, and she's gonna send you an email separately with specific information about that, okay? Like get those. Sorry, a lot of that. Alright, so let's go back to modules. You will have a STEM lab coming up pretty soon. So you will have a total of 2 STEM labs for 114. The first one is gonna be more of an OB clinical, get you ready, because it's a different world in OB. And that'll be in conjunction with your 115 assessment. Okay, so those are scheduled, those 4-hour blocks that she talked about. Your second simulation will be a scenario-based sim that is scheduled on the clinical schedule, and the times are there. Okay? For your OB simulation, there is no new prep work for that. If you've done the prep work for OB, that is a gracious empty, okay? So what you will do for that first OB sim that's gonna be in conjunction with that assessment is you're just gonna bring your prep work that you did for OB class, for reproductive class. You're just gonna bring it, you're gonna show it to me that it's done, and I'm gonna say, okay, you're good, okay? The second simulation does have prep work in it, isn't it? It'll be pink on there, the first one. And then for the second one, it's either blue or yellow.
And then, it doesn't show STEM level.
It's all yellow for us,
It's all yellow for y'all.
and then the first one is black. Says nursing 115 on it.
It's not on our.
It'll be posted on campus.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we're working in 2 courses, so I'll just keep it posted. So for your second simulation, there is prep work, and you can bring that with you for that, okay? Very good. So for 115, you have the OB sim and that health assessment sim, and then your check off. For 115, you have the pink one and the gray one, and for 114, you have a pink one that's in conjunction, and you should have a yellow or a blue a little bit later. Okay?
What about the grade?
Gray's for 115. Yeah, it's confusing, I know.
For 9, it's black or yellow.
Okay?
Or 115.
Any questions about simulation lab? So if there is prep work or if there's a pre-class assignment that we want you to do when you get here, it will be posted within your module. So all of them are set up very similar, maybe different colors, but the information is the same. So you'll have your exemplars listed, any reading that is required or suggested, and then any before class prep work that needs to be done. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you that in previous years, before we changed the curriculum, OB used to be half a semester, I now teach it in 2 class days, right? Now, the reality is, the majority of y'all don't wanna go into OB nursing, right? But a lot of you, some of you do. So we wanna make sure that you're prepared for that, but we are not gonna spend a whole semester, right? So the way that you're gonna get around that is there are some recorded lecture videos that I want you to watch before class. I promise you, if you come to OB lecture and you have not watched those videos, you are going to be lost, because we're gonna use class time to apply that, okay? So just make sure, especially for OB, but for any of them, just make sure that if there's pre-class things there, that you've done that prep work before you come to class. I'm not gonna go around and check and see if you've done it, but if you hadn't, it's gonna make that class time really hard to kind of get through and get what you need to out of it, okay? Okay with that? So any before class stuff will be posted there, any class activities will be posted either already before class or the morning of class. Some of us hold our, like our PowerPoints until after class and then post them, so anything that was used in class, we posted there. And then under the bottom, there's gonna be some type of remediation resources. So for instance, for me, these are the 4, adaptive quizzes that are available for that content area. And then here are the related CJ Sims that I've picked out that are gonna be beneficial if you choose to do them, right? They're not required, they're just there in case you wanna do them, okay? For this one, this is kind of a different world, so there's a lot of extra resources as well. One thing I do wanna point out, just because I have everybody here together, and I'll probably forget to mention it next week, for your fetal heart rates, this quiz thing right here is phenomenal. You can go in and let you read fetal heart rate strips, so that is there. I would encourage you to use that, and then if you don't use the rest of these. So there's some extra resources and handouts and that kind of thing you can choose to do, okay? Alright, any questions, cause that was really fast for me. Y'all over this already? Y'all know what to ask, it's just been too much. Okay. Yes. Yes, for sure. So, yes, without a doubt. Like, for instance, the HESI review test at the end is 210 questions. You will have no trouble meeting your requirements for remediation if you only do the adaptive quizzes that we post. However, if you would rather do some extra ones on your own, we can see those as well, okay? Just remember the CJ Sim cases, I do encourage you to do a few of those, but I will not count those until the end. So when we update, like midterm, we say you've done this many remediation questions, that will not include CJ Sim. I'll just update those at the end. Yes.
I just wanna let my clinical group know, we'll be having clinicals tomorrow. So just come in the lobby, we sell them help, and I'll come down and get you, okay?
And then for your adaptive quizzing, the way we've got this set up is currently when you log into your adaptive quizzing, only the adaptive quizzes for test 1 content are open, okay? So the first day that we start test 2 content, all of the content quizzes for that content will open. So right now, you probably only see 9, quizzes available, but there's a total of like 25 or 26 throughout the semester that will open. So there will be plenty of questions for you guys to use. Okay? It's a busy semester, but I think you will be shocked at the end of the semester how much you've learned. And so I think that's what you have to focus on, right? You can do anything for 10 weeks, maybe around 10 weeks if you can get through it. And then in the fall, you're gonna be like, what do I do with all this time, right? You don't have 4 days of clinical a week. Any questions before I let you guys take a break? Yes.
Should we be able to sit on the early modules and?
Let me switch it to the student view, so
Questions, cause I'm not able to pull them out.
So this is what yours should look like for, are you right?
Not open. No, we just see the first one.
Okay, I will make sure those are available. And if you're right, the medical is different.
The EAQ should be in there already, right, or is it?
They're not.
They probably just haven't unlocked it. But I'll fix it.
question.